The old iOS, the nostalgia. I spent countless of hours on this thing playing the most amazing games. One game that always stuck out from memory, just due to the sheer amount of rage it caused me, was not that game. I'm talking about the game that started it all. The Impossible game. Released in 2009, this is one of the original Rage games that started it all. It finished its journey with 5 levels, and even a sequel. I wanted to relive those moments of my perfect childhood. So let's remake it in 3D. For this build we're going to make the original Xbox Fire Aura level, which came out just before the iOS release. It's the one that I remember the most. We didn't need Magical Voxel this time, as our player is just a cube, so we set our scene up, added a simple cube game object, a plane, a floor, and a skybox. Beautiful. I then focused on the mechanics of the game. When playing, after the screen is pressed, the player jumps a certain distance and rotates 180 degrees. I made a quick player controller script to do just that, and alter the world's gravity. And that was pretty much it. Kind of. If you look closely, you can see that the player is at times not doing a fully complete rotation, but was still jumping perfectly. Whereas when my player jumped, the box collider also rotated, and if it landed on an edge, it would go in all directions. Which gave me the idea, let's just make it look like it's rotating, but keep the box collider the same. To get around this, I made a child object that simply acted as the illusion that it was rotating, but the player was simply just jumping up and down. I removed the mesh renderer from the player parent object and activated the child's one, and it was looking good. Now, endless runners typically move the world and not the player. In fact, the player remains relatively stationary. It's like an illusion that makes it look like the player is moving forward. Most games are like this because you can easily spawn and unspawn scenery to save on performance, and control players' actions within a fixed frame of reference rather than adjusting its position constantly. So even though ours isn't endless, we're going to use this implementation style for our game. By placing all obstacles under one parent object, we can move everything in one go. And with that out of the way, it was time for the fun part, remaking the environment. To make the obstacles we needed 2 things, cubes and spikes. So when you need shapes that Unity normally can't build, we called upon Unity Pro Builder. I opened the editor, drafted a quick triangular prism for the spike and rectangular prism for the jumps. I tested them out quickly and everything seemed to be working fine. I even put an outline on the enemy objects and player to give it a better look. Next was to finish off the environment. I didn't really know how to space out the obstacles, but lucky for me the game gave me my musical cues. Wow, I never want to do that again. After a lot of trial and error, changing around values and making sure the level lined up to the music, I finally remade the level. I also added a death animation so when the player hits a spike or the void, it dissolves into 50 small cubes. Next thing to do was to recreate the void. I added a water shader, gave it the same characteristics as the spikes, and everything was starting to come together. Last few things to add was a camera movement script that smoothly follows the player's y-axis, and an attempt meter to keep track of the player's attempts, which increase with every automatic retry. I finally added in some post-processing and changed the color theme. This was before, and this was after. It was looking much better. And so after all that, I give you the Impossible game, but in 3D. This was a fun one to build. Definitely had its issues, but I think it turned out great. If we get some love for this, I'll release an original level of the game on my itch.io page, probably with different music so you guys can play it. And remember, please click that subscribe button if you want to see more. Let me know what you do differently or what build you want to see next. One improvement I could definitely make would be to change the colors of the spikes to make them more pronounced, but as always, thanks for watching.